My name is Zoe Madison, and I am 62 years old. At this age, you think you've already endured life's worst storms. You believe nothing can truly shock you anymore. You're wronged. Some storms don't rage outside your window. They sit across the dinner table and call you a burden. It was a Sunday, the kind meant for forgiveness and family. Daniel had called earlier that week. "Mom, come over for dinner," he said. "Let's spend some time together." Those words meant everything to me. After my husband passed away 8 years ago, Daniel became my world in a way that frightened me. Not because I depended on him financially, I didn't, but because he was the last living piece of the family I had built with my own hands. I still worked 3 days a week at a small bookstore. The scent of paper and ink comforted me. It reminded me that stories can be rewritten, even when they seem finished. But I never told Daniel how quiet my apartment felt at night. I didn't want to be a weight on his happiness. That evening I wore my light blue sweater, the one Daniel once said made me look young. I baked Clara's favorite apple pie from scratch. I even used cinnamon the way she preferred. I arrived early, hopping to help. Clara greeted me with a polite smile that never reached her eyes. "Dinner will be ready soon," she said. Daniel hugged me quickly, distracted. His arms felt different, less certain. We sat at the table, the food was good, the conversation brittle. Daniel talked about bills, the mortgage, rising costs. Clara mentioned how exhausting it was to carry responsibility for everyone. I felt something tightening in the room. "I'm proud of how hard you both work," I said gently. Clara tilted her head. "It must be nice not worrying about that." I laughed nervously. "Oh, I still worry." Daniel's fork clinked against his plate. "Mom," he said sharply, "you work part-time." There was an edge in his voice I didn't recognize. "I manage," I replied calmly. And then it happened. He leaned back in his chair and said, loud enough to echo in my memory forever, "You're the worst father living off us." The words struck like ice water. Worst father living off us. I felt the blood drain from my face. I wondered if I had misheard him, if perhaps stress had twisted his sentence. "I beg your pardon," I whispered. "You heard me," he snapped. "We help you constantly, and you act like you're independent." "I pay you back when you help," I said, my voice trembling but controlled. "Eventually," Clara added. That word, eventually, felt heavier than any insult. In that moment I saw something painful. My son didn't see my sacrifices. He saw only inconvenience. He didn't see the nights I stayed up stitching his school uniform because we couldn't afford a new one. He didn't see the weekends I worked double shifts after his father died. He didn't see the jewelry I quietly sold to cover his college tuition. Children rarely see the cost of love. My hands shook beneath the tablecloth, but my voice did not rise. "I have never lived off you," I said softly. "I never will." Daniel rolled his eyes. And something inside me, something that had endured widowhood, grief and loneliness, quietly stood up. "So I did too. I came tonight because I believed I was welcome," I said. Clearly I misunderstood. I picked up my purse. Neither of them stopped me. I drove home in silence. And when I reached my small apartment, I allowed myself to cry, not because I was called a burden, but because the boy I raised had forgotten who I was. That night I did not sleep. I replayed every decision I had made over the past decade. Had I hovered too much? Had I accepted help too easily? Had I mistaken love for obligation? By morning, my tears had dried, replaced by something steadier. Resolve. The first call I made was to Margaret, an old friend who owned a charming bed and breakfast 2 towns away. Years ago, she had offered me a management position. I declined back then. "I can't leave Daniel," I had told her. Margaret laughed warmly when she heard my voice. "Zoe Madison, I was wondering how long it would take you." "Is the offer still open?" I asked. "For you, always." Within weeks I packed my belongings. When I told Daniel I was moving for work, he looked startled. "You're moving?" he asked. "Yes. Why didn't you tell us you were unhappy?" I smiled faintly. I wasn't unhappy, I was shrinking. He didn't understand. But I did. The bed and breakfast changed me. The building was warm, filled with laughter and stories from travelers. I greeted guests at sunrise. I baked bread at dawn. I managed bookings, organized events, and slowly rebuilt something I had nearly lost. My confidence. Guests loved me, they complimented my warmth, they asked about my life, they valued my presence. I wasn't someone's burden. I was someone's blessing. Margaret soon made me a partner. My savings grew. For the first time in years, I wasn't surviving. I was thriving. 6 months later, Daniel called. His voice was different, hesitant. Mom, Clara lost her job, we're struggling. I listened quietly. I'm sorry for what I said, he added. I was angry about money, I took it out on you. Apologies don't erase pain, but they open doors. Thank you for saying that, I replied. There was silence. Could you help us, he asked softly. The irony wasn't cruel. It was poetic. I did help them, but not by handing over money. I offered Daniel freelance work connections through guests at the inn. I invited Clara to help coordinate events and weddings we hosted. I gave them opportunity, not charity. It changed everything. Working beside me, Daniel saw the early mornings, the long hours, the leadership. One evening, after a successful wedding reception, he approached me. I didn't realize how strong you are, he admitted. I've always been strong, I said gently. You just stopped looking. Clara too softened. I thought you depended on us too much, she confessed one afternoon while arranging flowers, but you were just trying to stay close. I loved being near my son, I replied. That's not dependence, that's motherhood. Tears welled in her eyes. Healing isn't loud. It happens in small, honest conversations. A year after that disastrous dinner, they invited me again. I accepted not because I needed their approval, but because I had regained my balance. The table looked the same, but the energy felt different. Before we began eating, Daniel stood up. Mom, he said, his voice steady but emotional, last year I disrespected you in this room. I called you a burden, I was wrong. He swallowed hard. You gave me everything, and instead of gratitude I gave you pride. The room felt heavy with sincerity. I reached across the table and took his hand. I forgive you, I said, but remember this, love should never feel like debt. Clara nodded quietly. That night I didn't leave in tears. I left in peace. At 62 I have learned something powerful. Children grow up, but parents must grow too. If we cling too tightly, we risk losing ourselves. If we allow disrespect in the name of love, we teach others how to treat us. I once believed keeping quiet was strength. Now I know true strength is walking away with dignity, and returning only when respect is restored. I am Zoe Madison. I was once accused of living off my own child. Today I own my own cottage, I co-manage a thriving business, and I sit at dinner tables not as a burden but as a woman who remembers her worth. And if anyone ever mistakes kindness for weakness again, they will discover what my son did. A mother's love is endless, but her self-respect must be too. Morals. Never allow love to become a reason for losing your dignity. Support your family, but never shrink yourself to make others comfortable. When you honor your own worth, the world, even your children, will learn to honor it too.